Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Parenting Hour. You're tuned in to Unity FM 93.5 here in Birmingham. Welcome to our Luton listeners who are tuned in on 105.1. Alhamdulillah, we're here for another session with you for the next hour in Parenting Hour. My name is Kathleen Roche-Nagi and I'm your host with you for this hour, inshallah. If you want to ring the studio or email the studio, the numbers are the same. They haven't changed. It's 0121 772 8892 or the email is studio@unityfm.net. Today, alhamdulillah, we have a nice discussion with a very energetic person in front of me, mashallah. We have Brother Omar, who is the National Communities Manager from Sport Equals, and he's come all the way from Yorkshire to be with us here in the studio to tell us all about Sport Equals and what they do, which is a national organisation. So Luton listeners, there'll be activities for you down in Luton also, which we can include during the show and tell you a bit more about. But we're going to focus a lot around Birmingham and what's happening in Birmingham. So welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome indeed. It's good to be here on the show, and thank you for coming. So you're the National Communities Manager of Sport Equals. First, can you tell us a little bit about Sport Equals before we talk a little bit about your role?
Yeah, so Sport Equals are a national organisation, and our remit is effectively to encourage and support ethnic minority communities into sport and physical activity. What we found is there's a underrepresentation and less BME communities actually taking part in sport and physical activity for several reasons, and our job is really to support local authorities, mainstream clubs, national governing bodies to have that, build that insight and put on projects that will engage ethnic minority communities.
Very good. That sounds really good. So you're focused on ethnic minority communities. How long have you been running?
We've been, as an independent charity, we've been running for over 10 years now. So we've been going for quite a while, and we work on quite a national scale. So we have offices in down south. So we have offices in London, in Yorkshire. We have offices in Birmingham as well, and in Manchester. So we've got quite a good reach throughout the country, really. Our general kind of mission is three main things, really: to make communities healthier, stronger, and fairer. So in terms of healthier, we're hoping through sport and physical activity, health increases and people become healthier. Stronger, really, we're hoping we can use sport to kind of make communities stronger in terms of empowering them and uniting diverse communities as well, really. And fairer, really, we really want a bit more opportunity as well for people. So through sport, we can encourage more people to get involved in sport, develop careers in sport, and through that we think we can develop a fairer society as well.
Oh, mashallah, that sounds really good project, really good initiative in getting everybody involved. So you're in Yorkshire. Where in Yorkshire are you based?
So we cover predominantly Bradford, Leeds. But again, it's organisations or key individuals really happy to get in touch. If there's any support we can offer, we can support them as much as we can, really.
Well, that's great, because Approachable Parent actually does work in Bradford, Manchester, as well as London. So it's good that we're talking here today and starting to doing some work with you, which we'll talk about over the show, about activities and engaging the communities. But before we do that, you said you've been going for about 10 years. Why was there a need to set up or to have an organisation to get ethnic minority communities engaged more in sports?
I think basic insight and research told us that ethnic minority communities were underrepresented in sport and physical activity, so not as many people are either taking part in sport and physical activity or accessing these opportunities as well. And we found there was a demand there. So when we spoke to these communities, they said, yes, there is a demand there, but we need the right support and support mechanisms to actually getting involved. And then also a key part of the work we do, which obviously will come on later, is about the research and insight. And a lot of the issues that exist with ethnic minority communities and not taking part in sport, there's a lot of research to be done inside that, really. So part of our role is really actually building that knowledge of why people don't take part in sport, what are the issues, so we can feed that into the system to sport organisations and say, if you want to engage with this demographic, this is what you will understand, this is requirements. This is what the culture is like. But that's probably one of the main reasons, really. It's definitely under-representation as well. And again, that's not just playing sport. There was, in terms of people working in the sports sector, there's definitely under-representation in there. People who are actually coaching, in terms of coaches, very, very small stats in terms of ethnic minority people that are coaching as well, which has an impact across the board, really. So that was part of the reasons for us as well.
So that's interesting, actually, that we're, as Muslims and as ethnic minorities here, we're not engaging, or we haven't been engaged in the past like others. Do you think it is the culture, or do you think it's religion, or do you think it's just lack of knowledge, that people are not aware, parents in a way are not aware that there is jobs in this sector, that this sector actually provides an income for people to encourage their children to that sports is important? Because, when for a lot of people, I suppose they've thought sports is a nice added-on thing, going to school. Yes, you do your sports, you keep fit, but actually to have a career out of it is not viable. A lot of people think like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is. I think culturally, sometimes communities are geared towards certain careers, or certain probably careers that are more desirable or might have a bit more status, really. But again, I make my living from sport, and I kind of really enjoy my job as well, which is really great, and I get paid for it, which is fantastic as well, really. But I think the first point is we really want to get sport as a way for people just to get engaged, to be quite healthy, and just feel better about themselves, really. But again, as we said, they are careers then, especially for people from ethnic minority community. What we try to get the message as an ethnic minority person, sometimes you could have skills that are engaging with people that don't take part in sport. So a good example I would use in terms of this is there's a lady called Rashida from Yorkshire. So she's done all the coaching badges. She's really, really engaged in she's done all the badges, and now she works. A full-time job is around sport, really. She works for the Tennis Foundation one or 2 days a week. A lot of organisations realise that as a woman in her position, she's very good in engaging people that other coaches won't be able to, really. So I think definitely there is, especially because there's a shortage of people who can engage and understand that culture. You've got a really good USP there.
Yeah, so you need to explain to our listeners what USP is. Very technical for maybe some of our audience. A lot of our audience will know, of course.
But USP in terms of unique selling point, really. Yeah. Again, for example, if there was especially a Muslim female coach, that sport organisation will be crying out for someone like that, because that person would probably have more success in engaging with that audience than probably someone who's not Muslim or female, or someone that's a male, really. They'll have a lot more success there. So, and that's what people want, really. What we found is people, when they take part in sport, they want to be comfortable, and if that coach or the person who's delivering it reflects that community and makes them feel comfortable, that's a really good part of coaching, really.
And when you're talking about sports, are you talking about all the different types of sports? Because some communities affiliate more to cricket, others to football. So what do you cover? We work across all the sports, really. So we've really we've worked with kind of the mainstream sports predominantly, which we've had some good work around that, really. But then we've had hockey. We've done some work with hockey. We've had sailing. We've done some work with sailing before in the past. Tennis. Again, tennis is probably traditionally not something that ethnic minorities take part in. So we've been doing work around tennis as well, really. But again, part of it is just not sport as well, physical activity as well. What we found is sometimes when we say sport to some communities, they seem to get a bit scared, really. So I was doing some work with the Hindu temple in Manchester, and I mentioned, I said, hopefully we'll try and do some sport with you. And I was speaking to it was like a over 55s group, and once I mentioned sport, they're like, "Whoa, no, we don't want to do anything around sport." And then when I said, maybe it's just some basic chair-based exercises or some physical activity, they were okay, really. So it's around kind of sports really important for us, the structured side of things. But again, if someone just goes for a walk every often, or if they're doing some chair-based exercise, that's good enough for us as well. I mean, sport is really important that we include it in small snippets in everyday life, really. Whatever we can do can be related to sport. And it is surprising because I look at myself. If you spoke to me this time last year, I would not have been able to think that I could do even 2 10K runs, which I did as a fast walk, and now I'm going for a half marathon next.
Okay.
So this would have been, I would have said no way. But you know, we all can do it. It is well, most of us, if we do put our mind to it and just do a little bit of practice, a little bit of exercise, we can aim for the higher thing, the better sports, whatever it is. Maybe it is tennis for somebody, that's good for them. Maybe it's walking for somebody else. Maybe football for others, or hockey. Hockey sounds good indeed. I know the Irish team only won recently in their hockey. I used to play that a lot in school. Never liked the hockey indeed. Had a lot of bangs on the shins from the hockey stick. So I'm not a lover of hockey myself, but you know, some people may like that.
Yeah, so, and again, sport's really flexible now. So if someone, as he said, if someone wants to play hockey but they don't like the kind of the physical contact or the bang the thing, there'll be a flexible version where you can all play hockey, but it's not that intense, and it's not that hard, really. For example, tennis, there's a form called mini tennis, which is just in a very small confined space, really, where you don't have to be that skilled, you don't have to be that technical, really. So there's lots of variations to sport activities as well, really, because again, for cricket, for example, some people would want to play cricket, but they can't commit for a full day to play cricket league. There'll be a shorter format there. There'll be something that is kind of good for everyone, really. So that's the beauty of sport now. It's very, very flexible. Even with clothing as well, really. Like netball, for example, initially there was very strict requirements. Sorry, not netball. Basketball's very strict requirements around kind of clothing and what you wear, really, and that used to put off a lot of communities, really, because they were. I'm sure there was initially the hijab was banned as well within basketball, but that's been overturned now. So females that are actually wearing the hijab, they can actually take part in basketball within the sport, really. So stuff like that is really, really important as well.
Oh, and things are changing, which is really good. We actually were talking about sport in relation to young people recently, and we had some young people over summer. They were doing activities, and we were doing a lot related to mental health. So we had, for the young people, sports related to mental health and how they could understand the impact of that on their physical health and mental health. And some of the boys were doing circuits and things, and the girls were doing fencing and archery, which they thoroughly enjoyed. So it covers quite a lot, the sports.
Yeah, the mental health side of things is really, really important. I think over the next few years, it's very high on our agenda, and I think it's going to be growing nationally in terms of how we can use sport and physical activity to improve mental health. And people sometimes don't see that, really. We had examples where someone said, I just went for a run and that just cleared my head a bit. We did a project around boxing, and the females they used to have a good half an hour session where they just punched the bag, really, and they said it did me one world of good, really, just having that that session where I could just let out some stress and energy, whether or not they were picturing the husbands on the punch bag is a different thing, really. But
I hope not.
But it was the benefits of sport and physical activity around mental health is really, really important. And we're looking into this as well, especially within kind of Muslim communities, BME communities as well. There's probably deeper issues there that we need to look into. So it's a really interesting time for us, that.
Yeah, subhanAllah. And I think when we do, even just like what I do, the walking that I do, to go out in the countryside and enjoy and really be aware of the countryside around you and the birds singing and the sun shining and the wind, and it's really great. It grounds you and actually makes you more thankful. Alhamdulillah, it's a really good reminder of being thankful to Allah that we are able to do this, that we are in good health, and we're able to walk, and we're able to appreciate the things that we actually don't appreciate in everyday life. We're too busy racing from one place to the other, so the breeze on our face or the birds singing, we don't appreciate those small little things, and just appreciating these, alhamdulillah, is really good. Wonderful. Gosh, there's a lot to talk about. We could talk about what you do all day indeed, but we want to focus on some of the things that's happening in Birmingham and some of the other things that you do. So maybe first we talk about the South Asian focus group that we're going to have here in Birmingham soon.
Yeah, so as I said before, a large part of our work is around research insight, and we have a dedicated research team that work around this. So our job is really to speak to communities and understand what the issues are or what the barriers are, and how that can enable more people to take part in sport and physical activity. So at the moment we've got a big focus around South Asian females and sport and physical activity. So we're doing focus groups around the country where we call these people who preferably don't take part in any sport at all, really. So people who are very inactive and are not doing any sport at all, really. And we want to speak to them. It's fairly informal about why you don't take part in sport, what are the issues, do you want to take part in sport, and how we can support you to take part in sport, really, as well, really. So it's an opportunity for people to be really honest and say there's certain reasons why I don't take part in sport, or so it might be just simple as I just don't have the time, and I don't really know or wouldn't know how to get involved in sport, really. And the purpose of this really is then we can take that information, we can feed it back to especially the national organisations that are in charge of sport, and then also a lot of local organisations as well, really, that are based in Birmingham as well. We can say this is what these communities are saying, this is good advice for you, really, that if you changed or if you were a bit flexible in your approach, you're probably going to get more people taking part in sport.
Yes, the focus group is on the 19th of September at 12:30 to 2:30. So we're hoping to have a lot of women come in to join your research on that time, on that day, on the 19th. So it's not that far away. If you're interested, if you'd like to take part, if you want to improve the situation here in Birmingham, improve your local situation, want to do some sort of sport that you're not catered for at the moment, and you want to get that message across, now is your opportunity to come. And the research people will be there that day, as you said, to listen to everybody and to take that feedback back.
Yeah, the researcher will be female as well, and bilingual. So if English isn't your first language, by all means, still come along. Really, we'll cater for everyone. But yeah, it's a safe environment where you can have your say and really feed back some crucial information that we can feed back to the key organisations to support everyone in the future, really.
So it will be taking place in Approachable Parenting offices in George Street. So that's George Street, in the 22 to 28 George Street, B12 9RG, in case you don't know. Right opposite the park, right opposite the swings in the park, indeed. And it'd be a good opportunity for you to come and see where we are as well if you've never been before. Bring your other female colleagues with you, anybody that you know of, your mother, your mother-in-law. It's for everybody. We're trying to get information for everybody to know why their people are not being involved in sports. So not just the younger people, but the people that maybe have young families, under 30 or under 35, and the more mature parents then as well, and the grandparents. So cater for everybody.
And that's it. It's really important. A lot of our, especially kind of mothers, grandmothers, they're really, really important for us, because firstly, their physical health is really important, and obviously we're working very hard throughout life, maintaining a household and everything else, really. So their physical health is really important. But then also they'll be transferring that message to their young people, to their children as well, really. So if a mother or grandmother isn't that involved in sport, really, it might not be likely that they'll transfer that message to their young children or grandchildren as well, really. So it's really, really important. We have a good cross section of people, really. But especially with mothers, we've had some really good comments in the past from other focus groups where they've said they were very, very engaged in sport up to marriage, and then there was just a complete drop off in terms of their sport and physical activity, which is a shame, but it shows that they're involved in sport and they do have appetite, really. So hopefully we can use these conversations to reignite that passion, and potentially it could lead to maybe a specific session, or if we have enough people, like-minded people, that say actually we can identify a venue, identify a place where we can get together and just have a social sport activity. That'll be fantastic as well, really. So we're really hoping that there's some positive outcomes from this focus group as well.
We have some sparklers, you're probably not aware of them. Our parents are trained up as peer mentors to mentor other parents, and they do different activities, and one of them is actually one of our coaches that encourages me to go for my walks as well as everybody else, and she does some buggy fit, which is a really good way of getting parents that've just had a child, get the child into a buggy and go for a walk together. So you're meeting other parents, you're having those conversations, but you're also getting some exercise in, getting fresh air for the baby or for the children, so they will sleep better, they will eat better. So there's benefits for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's really good examples of stuff like that. There's something called Park Run, which is there'll be quite a few in Birmingham that happen. If you just go on the website, you'll see Park Run, which is every weekend. There'll be multiple parks where people just have a run, and it's 5k. It's not that intense really, but some people run really fast. Some people just
like me walk.
Yeah, some people walk really, and it's a really nice atmosphere because it's got a good cross section of all abilities really. And it's a very good kind of entry point for people to take part in sport as well, really.
Great. So that's again happening on the 19th of September. That's a Wednesday at Approachable Parenting between 12:30 and 2:30. And we will put it out on Eventbrite, so you will be able to book it from Eventbrite. So you just click on Eventbrite and just book your free ticket to that. And we will have refreshments, etc. there for you on the day as well. So do pass on the message, listeners, to anybody you know that might be interested, or maybe they have tried to access something and they couldn't access something in Birmingham. This is their opportunity for us to be able to gather that feedback and do something about this and know what actually our community want. Community are saying they always want things, but we need to know what they want to be able to respond to it.
Absolutely.
So great. So you've done this now in several different places all over the UK. Have you some examples of differences that has made to the focus group happening in a city, for example, to what's happened after that?
Yeah, so we worked in Batley, which is a town in Yorkshire, and we did something similar in terms of we were looking at a local pool that was there, which was quite underutilised. It wasn't really thriving as a pool, really. So what we did is we did some research around what we can do to make more BME communities access that pool, really. And we spoke to a lot of the South Asian ladies and a lot of the Muslim ladies within that area, and they just said the pool just wasn't that kind of accessible for the females, really. Firstly, the timings of the sessions were probably incorrect, really. A lot of the females said these are the timings that would be perfect for me. Secondly, they also said the actual sessions weren't catered for me, really. They said a lot of them were kind of aimed at they were aquafit. They were things where you've got to be quite a decent swimmer to take part. And they said if none of us are swimming already, or very, very poor swimmers, we're not going to access something that requires us to be good swimmers, really. So we did a lot of insight. We marketed as well effectively as well, really. So when we changed the timetable, we looked at the session. When we marketed the opportunity, we marketed it a bit more creatively. We went to the butchers, and we went there and we dropped leaflets up there. We did it in local communities. And there's places where these BME communities will be accessing, as opposed to not just the mainstream places. And what we found afterwards was a lot more people were actually utilising the centre, really. Again, through it, we found that sports centre didn't have appropriate changing facilities. And all it really boiled down to was just a curtain. All the centre had to do is just install a curtain, which was quite cheap, to be honest. So the females had a bit more segregation if they wanted to. If they wanted a private area where they can get changed, and they installed the curtain, and it was as simple as that, really. And we got a lot more people actually taking part in swimming as well, really. So it was absolutely fantastic. And then one of the main successes for that is one of the females who turned out to be a very good swimmer, because she used to be a good swimmer when she was young, but again, similar story where she stopped taking part in swimming when she had kids. We ended up working and supporting her to become a lifeguard now, and the impact of her being poolside and actually supporting other females into swimming has been really, really good, really.
Oh, wonderful. So this is giving employment as well as helping out the community and helping the environment. I'm so surprised that it was down to a curtain. That is very simple little thing, as you said. The price of a bit of material to make a curtain is nothing.
And that's what it is. I think sometimes simple changes are what sport organisations need to do, and they just don't realise. We've had other comments from our focus groups where organisations or clubs have said, we don't have adequate prayer facilities, but a lot of them don't know. But in terms of prayer facility, you don't have to actually build a mosque or anything like that. A small clean room will be absolutely perfect for someone, really. But they didn't know that. They used to think, we need to have some special room for prayer facilities. A basic clean room would be absolutely perfect, really. So it's all this knowledge, really, that we garner from these focus groups, really, that are really, really important.
Great. Right, we're coming up to a commercial break now, and we're going to come back after the commercial break, so do tune in again to us listeners after this break, and we're going to talk more with Omar about what he provides and about these activities that are coming up in Birmingham, inshallah, these focus groups, inshallah, along with other things that they do. So please do tune back to us after this commercial break. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back after that commercial break. You're tuned into Parenting Hour on Unity FM 93.5, and our listeners in Luton are tuned in on Inspire FM 105.1. Welcome back to you also. We've been talking before the break about sport from Sport Equals, and we're going to continue our conversations with Omar here in front of me, inshallah. Again, the numbers are, if you do want to ring, contact the studio. It's 0121 772 8892 or studio@unityfm.net if you want to email in, and they will forward all your emails and comments to us. What we're going to be doing in Birmingham with the event on the 19th of September, the focus group on 19th of September at Approachable Parenting, 12:30 to 2:30, will be put up on Eventbrite. So anybody that wants to book a ticket for that, wants to engage with that, want to bring on their mum-in-law, their neighbours, their friends, their aunties, their cousins. It's an event for women, and it's a focus group around finding out what it is you would like. What facilities would you like? What would help you to get more active, to get more involved in sport, to get more involved in looking after your own health, which we already spoke about the benefits of that, not just physically looking after your own health and what it does, and especially for us women, that we should be looking after our bones and making sure our bones are good density as we get older, but also for mental health and how it makes us feel different and have different attitude and changes to moods, whether it's going out and walking in the fresh air or doing other activities. You gave a good example of somebody that was boxing, indeed, and getting rid of their stress that way.
Yeah, so, and it's just really important. Be as honest as possible. It's informal environment, and again, as we said, what you want and what we can offer would be great, but then equally, what has prevented you in the past, if there's negative experiences that you've had around sport and physical activity, that's really important for us to understand that and know, or if there are any other reasons that have stopped you in the past, that's really important as well. So don't feel that you've got to be very positive in everything. Your negative experiences, if you've had any, are really important, and there's a lot of learning for us in there as well.
Brilliant. All sounds good indeed. Great. Thank you so much for that. So we had a good discussion before the break about focus groups and the need for everybody to get involved. And as you told us a little bit about Sporting Equals, and I know you're here wearing your T-shirt there in front of me, but I think you do a lot more than what we've just spoken about. Can you tell us a little bit more about what whole Sporting Equals encompasses?
So along with the kind of research work and certain projects, we're commissioned certain projects, really. So we work on various agendas, and we're commissioned to work on quite a few different projects at the moment. So one of the projects we're working specifically in Birmingham is something called the Breaking Boundaries programme, which is funded by Spirit of 2012, and it's a partnership between Sporting Equals and Youth Sport Trust, and it's all around utilising sport, specifically cricket, to connect communities and unite communities. And that's our main aim, really. We've found that there's a real opportunity where, especially within the current climate and a lot of the issues that are happening, especially around hate crime, sport has a really important place, and sport could be that vehicle where we can actually get communities together to talk about issues and to actually connect in a way that they probably wouldn't. So this Breaking Boundaries project, a really exciting programme in terms of there's going to be opportunities around cricket for community cohesion. And a big part of this, what we're hoping to do, is target young people, probably about 30 a year, and make them community champions. So what we'll do is these young people can sign up to this opportunity. There'll be a day in November, a leadership day, where they'll be inspired, they'll be spoken about how to be a community champion, how to kind of make a difference in your community. And there's going to be some fun activity going on that day as well, really. And then hopefully, as a result of that, those young people can kind of go out in their communities, actually put on programs themselves, and do something that unites communities really as well. And we're quite fortunate we're going to be having the Cricket World Cup in 2019 as well. So these people who are involved in this program will have access to these opportunities with the World Cup as well. Really. So some selected people may even get the opportunity to volunteer at the World Cup on the day. And we've got a beautiful cricket ground in Edgbaston here, and it'll be a really good atmosphere, especially having the Cricket World Cup here next year.
Oh, that's really exciting indeed. That's coming up in November. And you're talking about young people. What age young people? So
the young people we're targeting is around the 14 to 25 mark. So what we'll do is we'll share the detail. There'll be a Eventbrite link quite soon. So we'll share them, and young people can sign up to that opportunity as well. And they can be part of the Community Champions programme.
Great, because we've had some really good, enthusiastic young people over the summer scheme that may be interested in doing something like this, get involved more in cricket, or they may have other friends. And it sounds really nice that next year you could be there at the World Cup. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a big event, and we want to use this to kind of celebrate community, celebrate sport as well, really. So the possibilities, there's so many possibilities there, really. But again, these young people, if they're into cricket or they're involved in cricket, fantastic. If not, it doesn't really matter. The key goal for us is connecting communities and get communities together, really. Cricket is just, within this project, it's a chosen sport. But again, if you're a good people person, if you're good at connecting communities, by all means, sign up, really, and we might see you on the big screen helping out the cricketers next year.
Great. You need to send us the details about that, and maybe near the time we come back and we remind people about it again on the radio. That sounds a really inspirational activity that's happening indeed, that will engage a lot of the young people. I think they will be looking forward to that. So that's really good for young people, and bringing organisations and communities together, because yes, I do think we need more things to bring different communities together. We often, I suppose, get busy in our own lives and what's happening, and before you know it, the week is gone and the month is gone, and you haven't kind of spoken to people from other communities, or even maybe your neighbours that might be from different communities. And this is something nice that we can all do together.
Yeah, I think the training, especially that leadership day, it'll incorporate some of our Making Equals programme into there, which is around leadership, but also stereotyping, myth busting, and actually training young people to understand different cultures and understand myth busting and stereotypes, and importantly, how to have difficult conversations without actually fighting. There's ways to having the difficult conversation are really, really important. So part of this day is going to incorporate our Making Equals program, where we're going to train these young people into becoming really good community champions and have these difficult conversations, because we see that if certain events occur further down the line, then because people have these understanding already, really, there won't be that negative tension, really, because they understand each other already. And if something happens, one community will say, "Oh, they're really a bad community," because they'll say, "We play cricket with them and we've spoken to them, and they seem all right, and we understand that that's not their community, really." So sport has a really important part to play in that.
Yeah, I find that people, if there's a focus point, people come around that focus point and can concentrate on that point, and it's really good for, in the end, we're all human beings here, living here together, and we may have some differences, but we have a lot in common, and we need to be able to help and support each other, indeed, to overcome difficulties. So that sounds really good indeed. Do you have other programs like that helps in cohesion and bringing communities together?
So we have two kind of other programs which we deliver nationally as well. There's one with the Tennis Foundation called the Serves program. So this is effectively, what we found is tennis, as we mentioned, is probably not the most diverse sport in terms of people playing it, and the Tennis Foundation were quite open when they approached us around that. They said our player base isn't as diverse as it should be, really. Tennis was traditionally quite white, middle class, and it was tend to be played in tennis clubs, which probably aren't the most accessible places, really. that's what we found really. So what we're trying to do is take tennis really to the grassroots. So the service program is all about targeting young people, probably from ages 6 to 18, anything between that. And what we do is we support organisations, and we give them all the equipment. We give them equipment in terms of a tennis kit bag. We'll give them some training, so we'll send out a tutor who will train a cohort of volunteers in how to deliver tennis to young people. And then there'll be kind of a range of they can get a pop-up court as well. But the purpose is just to get as many young people taking part in tennis on a regular basis, really. So this has been really good. Mosques, Hindu temples, Sikh gurdwaras have been kind of really enjoyed this opportunity where we provide the mosque or the community centre with the equipment and the training, and it's up to them to kind of deliver the program themselves, really. But we found it's absolutely amazing, and especially once you actually start playing tennis in a fun way, you find it's probably not what you thought it was, really. Because this, again, as I said, there's so many different ways to play tennis. It's people traditionally used to think it was just one person stands on one side, another person hit to each other. But there's so many fun games that I can play, and they can benefit young people really well.
And you mentioned there about pop-up courts. So do you need to have a big space for that? Like if you're talking about community centres or mosques, they may not have space, but they may have a car park. Would that be sufficient for a pop-up court?
Yeah, there'll be. Again, we've the mosque in Manchester we work with, or the mosque in London. They have quite a very small room, really, where it's just.
Oh, it's indoor. You play
indoor as well. Yeah, it's indoor as well. Really. So it's. The purpose of this program is that you can play tennis anywhere. You don't need a big space to do it. I'm saying. Probably if this room was a double size, we could probably get a tennis game in here, really. That's the beauty of this thing. It's taking tennis to places where you never thought it was. So we've got, so if you go in London, there's a mosque, a very small mosque, and they've got a bit of a space in the middle, and they're playing tennis in there, really. So it's about getting tennis in places that you never thought it was. And as I said, tennis can be played in different ways. So there's different games you can play that incorporate tennis, but you won't need a big space, really. So if there's any organisations out there, mosque, community organisations, youth clubs that are interested in actually being part of this programme, by all means get in touch, really. And it's really exciting. It's led to people go to Wimbledon as well. So a group of Bangladeshi girls that were taking part in this programme, they ended up going actually to Wimbledon and seeing the venue, and it was really inspiring for them, really. So it's something that it's a really exciting project, and we think there's a lot of mileage in it for us.
And is that free for communities to get?
Yeah, absolutely free for communities, really. We can speak to them about how they get part of the program, but yeah, the program itself is absolutely free. So we offer all the equipment free, and return. They just deliver the sessions for us, and there's some very basic monitoring which we support them with on a regular basis as well, really. But it's very much what you make of it. So if there's organisations who are interested, by all means get in touch with us as well.
Wow, so that's a really good way of trying to increase exercise, and people get people involved from all ages. And I can't believe that this is free. So you've got funding for this to go out to the communities and help the communities, which is really brilliant that we can do that in small spaces for free. So people don't have to be worrying about this, because I think that's another implication of why people don't get involved. If we look at the kind of the clubs that are around, the gyms and that they cost quite a bit, and people think, they're a bit expensive for me to go there and to join, to have the membership there. But with the activities you're providing, they can be for free, and it's open to communities. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, we see this as a kind of a bit of a tool for the organisation. They can go out to the community and say, we're delivering tennis now, so hopefully more people come into that as well, really. Another project we do, aside from the tennis project, is Get Out, Get Active program, which is abbreviated as GOGA. So this project is, for me, it's probably one of my favourite projects in terms of the impact it has is around looking at disability. So what we're trying to do is get more sport and physical opportunities for people with disabilities. And we found within ethnic minority and disability, there seems to be a lot more work to be done there. So we've been working with a lot of mosques in the area, and they said we're delivering sport sessions, we're doing some good work around physical activity, but people who are disabled, we don't have a clue what to do with them, really. We do not deliver any sport sessions for them. We don't actually cater for them, really. So for us, it's a really exciting program. The GOGA program is where we've actually worked with a lot of organisations to help them put on sessions that cater for people with disabilities, really. And through our research on that, we found there's probably a lot of deeper issues there as well. There's potentially some taboos there around people with disabilities, but that's one of the really exciting programs there. And again, if there's organisations that want that have some insight in this, by all means, get in touch with us as well.
Great, indeed. And that's, you're talking about people from different communities. Now, a lot of our communities do have issues, physical disabilities. They may have maybe deaf people there, there may be blind people there. So you can cater for these activities as well and engage all the communities.
Yeah, and some of it may be just some basic training where we can look at organisations that are currently delivering sport and physical activity already and saying, how can we tweak what you're doing to ensure you're inclusive for people with disabilities? And that's what's worked quite well with the organisations that are delivering sessions. The Moss, for example, in Manchester, have actually got to the point where they've actually set up a session now that engaged particularly with parents. So it's parents and their young children who have a disability, and they come together to sport, and it's been really, really good for us, really, because what we found is there's probably not been that much focus on catering for people with disabilities, especially on sport and physical activity. And sometimes we found was the people with disabilities, they were a bit restricted in terms of sport and physical activity, and they were saying, oh, this individual might get hurt, or they shouldn't be doing sport, which is probably harming them in the long run. But again, this is a really exciting program for us as well.
Great. So you're trying to cover everything there, indeed, and try and help our communities be more involved, from women, especially Muslim women wearing hijab, and engage with them and the implications of that, down to people with different disabilities, and get everybody. So you have a wide range, a lot of things to cover. You must be very, very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just kind of our grassroots work in terms of the top level stuff. Again, kind of our senior management, and a lot of our work is kind of raising the agenda. So what we want to do is talk about these issues at a national level, and there's certain issues that are quite high profile. For example, leadership. So in terms of board level positions in sport, senior leadership positions, the stats are very, very low. At last kind of audit we did, there was 3% of ethnic minority communities on leadership positions. So a lot of our work is really about kind of raising the agenda at a political level and saying that needs to be changed as well. There has to be more people on diversity at board level, and if there's more diversity at board level, it'll have an impact on grassroots as well, really. So again, along with the grassroots stuff, we are doing a lot of kind of top level work as well, influencing and policy change and changing the sports sector as well.
Great, good indeed. So how many cities are you involved in again? Can you tell us? You mentioned Manchester, Bradford.
Yeah, so currently we've got offices, we've got staff in Slough, in London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Bradford. But again, our team are quite fluid, really. So if there's ever kind of inquiries or any support, and outside those, by all means, get in touch. If we can't physically support, we have links with the correct organisations that we can signpost as well, really. So by all means, anyone who wants to get in touch with us, just by all means get in touch wherever you are in the country, really.
Great. And of course, any of our parents that are tuned in from all these different cities, we also are working in these cities, so maybe we can do linking up some things together and try and get our parents more involved in activities. It would be a nice way of joining up and doing something for our parents as well, inshallah, in the future. I believe also you do a award ceremony each year, indeed. Maybe our listeners might want to hear more about that.
So we're kind of the founders of the BEDSA Awards, which stand for the British Ethnic Diversity Sport Awards. So this we've done it for 4 years now. So it's awards all about kind of recognising, celebrating diversity in sport. And what we have is, within that, we have kind of it's a big event. We have kind of media there, so BBC cover it, Sky Sports, the cameras are down there as well, and we have two sides to the awards. We have the elite awards, so we have the kind of the Moeen Alis, the Lewis Hamiltons, these sports stars, Dean Asher-Smith, these sports stars from ethnic minority communities that are at the top of the game and playing professionally. So we have an opportunity where we want to support them and recognise their talent, really. So we'll have a sportsman of the year, sportswoman of the year, team of the year, inspirational moment. But then on the other side, we have community awards as well, really. So on the same day, we have Connect. We have a project where we'll have a award category where it'll be best grassroots project or unsung hero, or we have one called connected communities. Really. So there's a lot of good work already happening, really. So if there's organisations that are actually doing some really good work, or some real individuals that are doing some amazing work around sport and physical activity with diverse communities, then by all means, once the nominations open, by all means nominate them, because this could be the opportunity where they could actually be recognised for the hard work that they do, really. Especially the Unsung Hero Award. We've had people who have dedicated 50 years of their life voluntarily doing work for the community, and this was an opportunity for them to have the name in lights for that night, really, and to really be celebrated for the good work they do, really. So it's an annual event, and the last 2-3 years we've been very fortunate. We've had Sir Lenny Henry host the award for us, really. So it's a great event, and it's a good celebration of diversity in sport.
Wow, well, that sounds really interesting. And we're not really good at nominating other organisations for good things. We're better at complaining as a community rather than saying the good things that are happening. So here's an opportunity to really thank, and this is something that we should be doing, as our Islam tells us, to be out there and be grateful and thank others, to encourage others to in this field, and help others to aspire to those achievements.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's looking at it in terms of the elite side of things. We're celebrating these athletes, and these athletes, young people can look at it and say, wow, I was inspired by that person, I want to be that person. And then also at the grassroots side of things, there's so much good work going on. We celebrate that, and organisations can look at that project. For example, there was a project around interfaith, the women's sports programme that won last year, and it was a project that was around interfaith women coming together and playing some social sport, and that was a winner on the day. But other organisations or other areas can look at it and say, well, that's a really good project, it's a really good idea, we want to replicate that. So it's a day where we kind of inspire each other and share, just really celebrate as diverse communities some of the good work that's happening.
Good. Where would people get more of this information? Your website, what's the name of your website, your social media contact?
Yes, so on our website, www.sportingequals.org.uk, so a lot of our information is on there, but we are on all kind of social media platforms as well. Twitter's a great way to kind of keep updated in a lot of our work that we do, so we're at Sporting Equals on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook as well, really. So by all means, that's probably a good way to get in touch as well, really. Email, if you want to get in touch, it's info@sportingequals.org.uk. But social media is a good way. We monitor that quite well, and we've got a good presence there, so give us a follow as well if you can. Great.
We will indeed. We will follow you from today, and you've covered quite a lot actually, Omar, about what you're doing and what Sport Equals do. Maybe just before the end of the show, we've only got a couple of minutes left before the end of the show, if we can talk and revise a little bit more about what's happening with the focus group that's happening that's in the 19th September, so that people can book onto that. Again, it's a free event where we're going to give refreshments and some light snacks there for people to come, an opportunity for them to get their voice, for women to get their voices heard. Isn't that right? On the 19th September between 12:30 and 2:30.
Absolutely, yeah. So we on the day, it will be quite informal. We'll have two really good researchers there, really experienced researchers, who will speak to you and ask questions around what are your motivations for sport or physical activity, what are the barriers, speak about your life cycle in terms of through the years, have you taken part in sport? If you did, what did you enjoy about sport? When did it drop off, if it has dropped off, really? So there's going to be some really good questions around that, and it's an opportunity to kind of speak about that, and again, it's your chance to share positive experience, negative experience, or what changes you would like to see that can encourage more people to take part in sport and physical activity, really. So it's fairly informal in terms of the chat, and it's safe space, but very safe space.
It's that approachable parenting, inshallah. Allah always keep it a safe space,
and it's just an opportunity to have these questions around barriers, motivations, any issues that kind of around sport and physical activity, and how we can make the changes to support and make sport a bit more inclusive for everyone.
Brilliant. And with that, indeed, we should be all thinking of how we're going to be a bit more active and a bit more sport, to include sport into our life, whichever way we do it, whether it's walking or jogging or playing tennis or cricket or whatever, swimming, whatever we like. There's great opportunities there. So before we end, I'm going to ask you really, what are you going to do today? What kind of sport activity are you going to do today? I know you had a long journey here.
I've had a very busy weekend playing sport, so Monday tends to be my rest day, but and I'm saying So today is my rest day. I've had last few days I've been really, really physically active, and I've been doing a lot of running and taking part in sports. So today is actually my rest day, but I'm preparing tomorrow again, where I'll be playing five-a-side football. So that'll be what I'll be doing as well, really.
Five-a-side football sounds good indeed. I often encourage parents to do this at home or in the park with their own families. You know, it's a great family time. It's very important that families come together, and when children come home from school, they're not going to tell you they're rich straight away, but if you go on out and have a game of football, the family together, and have two teams there, just, you know, a very informal thing, but can be competitive as well. Parents then will get the information from their children after that. They will be more open to discuss issues, because not just the physical sport helping to de-stress, but it's bringing the families, bonding the family together.
No, absolutely, yeah. That's what we found that as well. It's a really good family activity. Really, a lot of sports sessions as well that we've kind of support set up. Family sessions are absolutely brilliant. The mothers and daughter sessions have been really good as well. The fathers and sons, if they want segregation, but again, it's a great tool for families as well, really, and as we've said in the past, really, sport for us and our kind of mission at Sporting Equals is healthier, stronger and fairer. And I think if we embed sport and physical activity into people's lives, we'll definitely have those outcomes.
Inshallah. And I think we have an opportunity here in Birmingham, listeners, now to do something about it. You've been complaining that there's not sports facilities for women, or what you want is not available for you, or the times. Now is your opportunity to come to this focus group on the 19th, Wednesday the 19th, between 12:30 and 2:30. Look it up on Eventbrite and book your ticket. And we want to really hear what it is you want, as well as our experienced people that are going to be asking those questions, researchers, as you said, coming and asking those questions and trying to gather that information and do something about it. So it's not just gathering information, that's it, thank you very much. No, from that, do something about it so that we can be a better, healthier community, and as we move into 2019, inshallah. Well, thank you so much, Omar, for coming to the show today. It was a pleasure talking to you and finding out more about Sport Equals, which I hadn't any idea about before we sat down and had this chat. It's great for you to come. Thank you. And I hope we'll have you back again in November to talk more about what's happening then, indeed. So it'll be really good.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome indeed. And everybody, inshallah, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for tuning in, and do tune in to us again next week, inshallah. Have a good week. Assalamu alaikum.